Before we begin, thank you very much to Vivi for pitching in over on Ko-fi. Thank you very much for the direct contribution to the channel. Do appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words as well. I'm glad you enjoy the news roundups. I'm glad people seem to be enjoying what I do in general. It's a nice feeling. But yeah, you people are trying to do a Ko-fi streak now, which is your prerogative. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you very much for the contribution. So today, I know it's the weekend. Normally we do reviews on the weekend. Plans change. Didn't feel like, because like what I have to review right now are all like multi-packs, and I don't really feel like sitting down and doing 2 to 3 figures at a time. So instead, I'm going to tell you about a recent endeavor that I attempted. Once again, it's a very rare thing for me. I broke out the paints and the brushes, and I decided I'm going to customize a Transformer toy. Have not done it in a long time. The one you see here on screen is not the one I just did. You can tell from the dust, you can tell from a little yellowing on it. This has been around for a hot minute. So this is RID Night Cruise, redone from Energon Sharkticon. And it's a weird design. Like, number one, I'm the only one who's going to do a Night Cruise homage because I really, really liked the color scheme and look of RID Night Cruise. But also, it's only me who would see the parallels between that toy and the Energon figure before you. I think it works strangely well. And also, I didn't get a photo of it because this is just kind of like an example photo of things I've done in the past. I also did like the line wash across it, so it has that same like gray line work as well. It looks really, really cool. It came out really, really good. But that is a very old custom at this point. I would hazard that might even be like a decade old or so. Been a minute. The more recent ones were these that I showed off. If you watched my video on the McDonald's changeable toys, you saw these guys appear at the end. I called these the Munchines, which would include their leader, the King Fry, in the middle. On the right would be the Ice Queen. And on the left is the Wendigo, who I made horrifying. This was just me coming up with this funny idea of like, well, I've got a bunch of spares after collecting all those toys for that video. Let's do something fun with the spares and make the villain cast, using the competitors. We even matched up logos and box designs with period packaging, just to make it as accurate as possible. So I was proud of this one too. I love how these came out. Most of my toy customizing wasn't even in shape-changing robots, though. It was during my Glyos phase. And I have a ton of custom Glyos that I have done over the years, a lot that I'm like super proud of, but this is the one that kind of takes the cake. So this was the AV robot done by Nemo, and yeah, it's all Nintendo robot, complete with controller hand and a pixel Mario that I painted with a toothpick, one poke at a time to get that look. The creator of this toy liked this one so much, he made a full production version, royalty-friendly, copyright-friendly version, but there is a real one in the world that was actually produced by the creator of the toy, which I think was the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do in Glyos. But to the new project, and frankly, this is something I've been having on my mind for a long time. There's a few toys I've wanted to customize like this, but this one is just opportunity springing forth. And when it comes to a toy customizer, opportunity usually comes in a few different places. It's usually a bin of loose figures at a convention or a vintage toy shop, or maybe something you dug up at like a yard sale or a flea market. But if you want something that is fully intact but still affordable enough to actually sacrifice to the customizing gods, you have to go to a store like Ollie's, where mine currently has about 20. This is only one of their 2 stacks of kickbacks. Never got the Perceptor in like a lot of others did. But yeah, if I want a Plague of Insecticons and I feel like blowing $100, I could just have that if I really wanted to, which is kind of crazy to think about. But no, yeah, like you want something that's for like a third the price it normally goes, you go to your liquidation outlets. Ollie's usually has some kind of transformer nobody bought at retail, or what else is good? Ross is a good option too. These are US options, by the way. I'm not familiar with liquidation chains anywhere else in the world. This is just me referencing what I know. But the figure that I saw, and you saw it in the thumbnail of the video, so I don't even know why I'm building up as a surprise, was the Warrior Class Earthspark Megatron, which I grabbed with this custom in mind, and then got it out of the packaging, messed around with it, and went, oh wait, I don't have this toy. I have the deluxe. And this toy does a few things differently. Uh-oh, I think I like this one too. So back I went for a spare, so now I could repaint the one I bought first, but still have one for myself. And then in the middle of transforming it, ended up ripping a foot off because I was trying to do it in a different way than I was supposed to. So I got a third one. I ended up with one for myself to keep, and that was like my test. That was like my my comparison. That was like how I kept track of where all the different parts went, just to make sure everything was still where it went once I reassembled it. The broken one ended up as like a guinea pig for whatever like colors or things I wanted to do. So he that was just the sacrificial lamb. All of his parts just became like paint test. And then there was the one who eventually became my repaint. Now, one of my favorite things when I see after I've repainted is like when I have everything up on these little clips. This is like a figurine stand thing. Like it's all little spring, little alligator clips on long stems, and the base that you can plug the stems into to keep everything afloat. And this is basically how they stay until they are ready to be reassembled. This was funny. Like, this is always like a funny sight to me because it's like something out of like Vlad the Impaler, where like Megatron has fallen. Here are his parts. Decorating my lawn is a warning. With this, I'm going to tell you, I live in Florida, for those who do not know by now. And as a Floridian, air painting anything is a nightmare. Taking these out, like, because of the humidity, like the humidity in Florida is so dense, you can't spray paint or prime something like this unless the conditions are exactly right. It's got to be the right time of year. If you're going to do it anytime in the spring or summer or early fall when the humidity just sucks, then you are going to want to have like the perfect opportunity. I had to spray these down at like 2 in the morning because that's the only time. I don't have the space or ventilation for an indoor paint studio, which is why nothing of this is going to be airbrushed. It's all hand brushed. But that's what you have to do. You have to wait for like perfect prime opportunity. When it came to painting, normally I do Citadel paint because I have a Warhammer store. I can just drive to the Warhammer store, get the colors I need, and then come back. But Warhammer has this issue with taking itself too seriously, so a lot of colors that I would really like to use aren't available. Metallics especially. They don't deal a lot in colorful metallics. It's mostly, golds and bronze and, metal shades, like colors that you would expect to be metallic. I had to go with war paints just because they had a metallic purple. That was literally my only criteria. Do you have metallic purple and a shade of copper that would work for this? Okay, you do. Cool. There's your hint so far. And then, once everything is painted, now I have to expand. Now I have to expand to make sure nothing touches while it's drying. And this is the stage I hate the most because everything in me just sees all the parts colored and painted and goes, now I want to do it. I want to put it all together. I want to see what I made. I want to see how I made. I want to see if it turned out. I want to see if it turned out. But I can't because all this has to be, all this has to be clear coated because otherwise the slightest bit of moisture is going to wipe all this off. But also, dusting off raw paint sucks. It ain't good. You need some layer of protection on there just so it's easy to keep it clean and just so it has some defense for scratches, friction, that kind of thing. But here's your last idea. Like, some of you put this together, so here's your last bit before I reveal what this Earthspark toy now is. This Earthspark toy is now an homage to Transmetal Megatron. One of my favorite Megatron color schemes that they never really use anymore, and I thought this was like the best look for Beast Wars Megatron too. It's not the first time I've looked at a toy and went, these colors would look really good on it. I think Beast Wars second Galvatron was the first time I actually thought that, like, that would actually work on that toy. Yeah, I actually like that. But no, it's something about the big shoulder armor. It's something about those spikes coming up that give me the same impression as, say, the T-Rex arms that also hang off of Megatron around that area. It's the fact that the cockpit could be painted up to look like the T-Rex head that's buried in the chest. You know, and there's a few other parallels too, and we'll show those as we go on. So here's your comparison shot of how different the two look. It is a wonder how much that face starts popping when you actually give it a proper paint job. Now, because Megatron's face and helmet are the same color in the cartoon, the left one is not inaccurate in the head. It just looks dull when you make it a toy. So the one on the right, I think, you know, like making it pop makes it work so much better. This is the kind of like stuff that comes out during like crazy BotCon repaints, right? So it already kind of oddly works for me. Like, the color layout is correct. Now, I realize that, like, in my head, I wanted this to be cartoon accurate, but because of the colors available to me, it's leaning a lot closer to how the toy looked, like the original American toy colors, except for the fact we have changed a few things to make it more animation accurate. You know, for instance, using black instead of dark brown. And that also is going to bring up another point. If you look, the midsection is like a shade of blue rather than continuing the black like the toy does. And that same blue is the two little wings that are hanging off of his hips. That's because when I was looking up source material for this and trying to gauge the actual colors of Megatron, I kept running into situations like this, where the midsection of his body is clearly a different color than the rest of him. Because you can see where, like, the piece that hangs off his hip, where his tail connects in beast mode, you can see where it's a different color than the black on his legs. So it's not the same. It really just depends on the lighting how this looks. Sometimes it's all black, sometimes it's not. So I wanted something with a little bit more variety. I went with the super dark blue rather than the black all the way through. In hindsight, a lot more of this should have been metallic or at the very least gloss to match the shine that a Transmetal has, but I really wanted the more metallic parts to pop. Like the bronze, especially the purple, I really wanted that to be like the star of the figure. I almost went so far as to like cut off the wing, the little winglet on the right hip of the toy. Since Megatron only has one thing hanging off his hip, I thought maybe that would match better, but I didn't want to sacrifice the vehicle's look. So ultimately, he retains the two. Still has his articulation. One of the things I make sure I do when I do repaint one of these toys is I always make sure to tape over the sockets and the balls. That way, the articulation isn't really hindered and everything still fits together smoothly. Does lead to a few colors being exposed, but, you know, a little bit of paint just kind of fill in the areas that are visible, and it's not going, you know, things that aren't going to, like, interfere with the joint itself or cause a whole bunch of paint shavings everywhere. Funny thing about this one, when I originally went to assemble it, you know how I had like 3 versions of this toy floating around? Yeah, I accidentally painted 2 left legs. So, the right leg is slightly newer than the rest of the body. This is why I had the spare. This is why I had the spare guinea pig. So I had to take his leg from him. But no, like, I'm glad it retains the articulation. Still looks pretty good that way. If you're wondering about the weapon, I modified the weapon so that it fits around his forearm. It's just friction holding it in there. I couldn't install a new peg. But this way it actually mounts the same way that Transmetal Megatron's tail weapon mounts. And this is again where I started finding parallels. I grabbed it in Ollie's because I started finding those weird parallels with the Megatron from Beast Wars. You know, that centerpiece on the chest that could replicate the dino head, the spikes on the shoulders, the large shoulder guards. And this, having that like bladed weapon at the end of the tail, also drew that into Transmetal Megatron for me. So this is one of those where like I was just waiting for like a really good bit of inspiration. This hit me pretty hard. This was a pretty strong hit. So yeah, this is what I ended up choosing because I've been in the mood to repaint for a while. I'll give you a close up here too. So this is where you can really kind of tell that this is all brushed on rather than airbrushed. Like I said, I don't have room for an airbrush studio. And this is where I start like disliking how good modern cameras are, because you can start to see where like there's a couple little white specks where I missed the paint a little bit. There's a little bit of overpaint, of the black around the silver spikes. From a distance, perfectly fine. Up close photos starts to bug the perfectionist in me. Oh, if you're curious about vehicle mode, here you go. This is another parallel that really drove it home for me. The fact that both Transmetal Megatron and Earthspark Megatron, they both have VTOL fans. That was another one that made it like a really big connection point to me. Here, I'll even give you the comparison. I'll even let you see the two side by side. Granted, this is the Japanese version, so the colors between the two are way off. But, you know, at least you get the idea. You get where, like, the inspiration hit me, right? When it comes to transforming a custom figure, by the way, you can't avoid paint damage. You just cannot. You know, it's just, don't even try. So, transforming this and then transforming back, I was actually surprised at how little repainting I had to do, how few touch-ups. But I still had to do a few. So, like, if you want to if you're going to customize a transformer, you want a full vehicle mode and everything gallery out of it, be prepared to break out the paints again and fill in a bunch of spots after the transformation. I would suggest saving transformation for last. That way, like, you know, anything that might be inconsistent in your photos in robot mode doesn't show. So, robot first, then vehicle. Then when all the photos are done, back to robot touch-up. Yeah, and that was the project. So, yeah, that's my super weird idea for a Transmetal Megatron homage. Yeah, this feels like one of those crazy Bakon-style ideas. And in a way, yeah, this is kind of like Dawn of Futures Past inspired, even though with Transmetal Megatron, that's impossible. But you know what? I really, really like it, and I thought, hey, why not share it with you guys today? So, there's the whole process, and there is the custom work. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. It'll depend on the inspiration, and if I can afford the paints at the time, because ain't cheap, but we'll see. So, that's what I got for you today. Thank you for indulging me as I talk about my creative projects outside of the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.